So imagine Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but she was born in the Soviet Union, and instead of going to college, she goes to hang out with her friend Boris the Werewolf in a panel apartment block in post-perestroika Russia. That's the Watch CRPG in a nutshell. Alongside modern-day Moscow exists a hidden world of supernatural beings known as Others. They come from ordinary families, look completely normal, but live for centuries and have extraordinary magical abilities. The light Others draw power from altruism and positive emotion. The dark Others are about personal freedom, egoism, and desire. The Soviet Union was the project of the light, but it had to be rolled back. They got close to discovering our existence. Nightwatch was built on an intersection of two powerful forces. That's the 2000s RPG culture and the hyper-political Russian sci-fi. Certainly this story won't become too weird. I don't think this will involve the Russian president asking us to be less racist on live TV. For sure, this will be one of many normal videos on youtube.com. The local term for science fiction writer is fantast. Now, this is true in Eastern Europe, and this is true anywhere else in the world. Fantasts love going to conventions. And what do you do for entertainment around these parts in the early 2000s? Well, you get blackout drunk. This is Sergey Lukyanenko. He is a prolific author of mixed Russian, Ukrainian, and Tatar heritage. Before becoming one of Russia's most commercially successful fiction writers, he worked as a child psychiatrist. Lukyanenko also happens to be something of an early video games philosopher. His big idea was that computer games were the new apex predator, the form of entertainment that would put all of them sci-fi writers out of the job, the ultimate recreational activity. He came to that conclusion after spending time with the 90s strategy games, so the ultimate recreational activity looked like this. Indeed, it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. One day, on a writer's seminar in the breakaway state of Transnistria, Lukyanenko meets his colleague and good friend Vladimir Vasilyev, who, looking as embarrassed as if he was talking about his first kiss, says, You know, I've been playing on a computer. There is this game. Warlord! Yes!
Duh, motherfucker. Warlords was a 1990 strategy game made by Aussies from the company's Strategic Studies Group, quite popular in Eastern Europe.
In addition to Heroes and Warlord, Lukyanenko's other big obsession was Master of Orion, a strategy game about developing a space nation. But if you listen to Sergey, he describes his experiences with the game the way someone would describe Morrowind. He was immersed. I generally wasn't even thinking about the game. I lived in it. Changed by the experience, Sergey goes on to write a Master of Orion book. Well, not exactly. These were original stories that incorporated elements from Master of Orion, the alien races and the planets, much like Fallout incorporated elements of Wasteland. The best term for this is probably homage. The books are very accessible and seem to be aimed at a younger audience, but sometimes the writer does get carried away. In the novel Genome, one plot element involves an assassin concealing a weapon in her snatch. This left a lasting impression on me as a teen. So, Sergey Lukyanenko's career was on an upward trajectory. But you don't reach that level of success without making a few posting enemies along the way. Indeed, he was a frequent target of internet trolls. And some of them took that relationship into real life. 2002. The Strannik Convention, St. Petersburg. A thoroughly intoxicated Lukyanenko is approached by a fellow writer, let's call him Alexei, who may have been the only sober person at the entire event. Alexei strikes up a conversation with Sergey and asks why he wrote about teenagers rather than adults. "It's easier for me that way," Lukyanenko replies. But the question clearly touched a nerve.
Wrote about teenagers. That means unsophisticated. This is clearly an act of aggression.
Composure. Keep your poker face, Sergey. Among intelligentsia types, university students, and broader Muscovite creative class, it was common to look down on Lukyanenko. His language was simple, domestically produced fiction was low status, engaging with Russian ideas was not seen as a way of advancing society. Is this important? Authority. Reassert dominance. Destroy the intruder.
Act before it's too late.
Alright, I know what to do. Lukyanenko adopts a life journal trolling persona. He places his arm around Alexei's shoulders and, as if conducting a psychiatric evaluation, he asks, "Why did you notice that? Why are you asking about teenagers? Did you have some problems in childhood?" "Sure, I was abused as a child, etc." Alexei effortlessly parries the counterattack. "You still haven't answered the question. Why is it easier for you to write about teenagers? What prevents you from writing like an adult?" Lukyanenko detonates. He knocks a glass out of Alexei's hand, the glass shatters, there is blood. Shortly afterward, an intoxicated Lukyanenko, together with his equally inebriated associate Vladimir Vasilyev, rally a group of supporters with the intention of beating up Alexei, who managed to evade them and leave the venue.
This is also what you do in Warlords.
This story is a classic forums legend. Sergey Lukyanenko was born in Kazakhstan. His friend Vasilyev was from Mykolaiv, Ukraine. Neither fit the stereotype of the Moscow intellectual. Vasilyev was first published in March 1987 in the Mykolaiv newspaper Lenin's Tribe. At the time, he was serving as a border guard in Turkmenistan. And he also wrote a computer game book. It was a novelization of XCOM, a strategy game about fighting off an alien invasion. I loved this book as a kid. It was a straightforward translation of gameplay into prose, including the various strange mechanics of XCOM. There is an authentic scene where chrysalids devour a human strike team.
It is curious that the games that inspired writers by their storytelling power came from the domain of strategy and not role-playing.
I think we can all agree that it does make a certain kind of sense that a Soviet army guy would write an XCOM novelization. And look at this cover. The artist managed to smartwash this aesthetic. It's very impressive. So, speaking of things inspired by XCOM, 2003 must have been a big year for the 5 people who visited the RPG Codex sister site covering RPG strategy hybrids. The Russian company Nival released a game called Silent Storm, and it was good. Set in alternate World War II, the player progresses from MP40s to plasma weapons and mechanical power armor. Silent Storm had fully destructible environments, realistic ballistics and physics, and an RPG system that combined traditional leveling with Elder Scrolls style learn by doing. Surely this is the new Infinity Engine. We'll be making Baldur's Gates on this technology for decades. Alexei's criticism missed the mark, because the book that made Lukyanenko one of Russia's biggest literary names was not about children at all. For millennia, light and dark fought a secret war until both sides exhausted themselves and signed the Great Treaty. The Night Watch is an organization created by the Mages of Light to monitor the forces of darkness. The Day Watch is operated by dark mages, witches, and vampires, and its purpose is to keep an eye on the forces of light. The genius of the setting is that it turns the miserable normality of the 90s and the 2000s Russia into a magical adventure. A corrupt cop is a vampire, a Soviet bureaucrat is an ancient archmage, the girl next door is of course a sorceress, and all of them engage in the mystical politics of the Night Watch. In addition to the books, Lukyanenko wrote the screenplay for the movie adaptation. The 2004 film was a Russian blockbuster, the first of its kind. And the critics could tell it does look like somebody's first time. But the audience loved it. The film set box office records. Fragments from the movie are used as cutscenes in the 2005 Night Watch CRPG. The game is built on the Silent Storm technology. Lukyanenko set the general direction of the project, but he was not on the dev team. The CRPG genre was chosen at his request. Sergey was a fan. Among his favorite CRPGs, he lists Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, Fallout, and The Witcher.
This tells us that he follows a classic definition. A CRPG is a role-playing game on a computer, as opposed to a more modern definition. A CRPG is a Baldur's Gate 2-like.
The dialogue was handled by Leonid Kaganov, who was recommended by Sergey, an accomplished author but one without prior experience in writing for video games. This is Stas, a down-on-his-luck man who has been hired to carry out an assassination. It turns out Stas is one of the others. This was a test to see whether he had what it takes to become an evil wizard. He fails, so he becomes a good wizard instead, joining the Night Watch. The adventure sends Stas to ordinary everyday locations in the 2000s Moscow. A commie block, a park, a police station, the metro, and a dream realm where you travel into the past to fight Nazis. To get around, Stas and his team drive through the city in their equivalent of the Ghostbusters car, a Soviet ZIL truck disguised as a government utility vehicle, very iconic. We can play as one of three classes. Mages are ranged damage dealers. In the sequel, the mage is replaced by the witch. They have more going on. Shapeshifters are tanky melee DPS. They can push and throw enemies around, which looks hilarious. The third class is the enchanter. They are built around infusing ordinary objects with magic. This is one of this setting's big ideas. Apples can be turned into healing potions. Instead of a firearm, Stas uses a flashlight that fires energy beams. Here, he fights with a street lamp, enchanted to resemble a lightsaber. Lukyanenko wanted the game to recreate Moscow's streets in a way that felt accurate and immediately recognizable. And on that front, the developers delivered. Environments are the best part of this. It's the only part of this that is any good. The Silent Storm engine was loved for its destructibility features that are mostly missing in this, which is an odd choice for a fictional world where every character can conjure explosions. There is no overworld map anymore. There is no exploration at all. The game is just a linear sequence of levels, and all you do in those levels is fight. So we have a Fallout Tactics situation here. The people involved were talented, but they did not seem to be very familiar with the Night Watch setting or with RPG design. Lukyanenko was nevertheless supportive of the developer team. Although, of course, I do have certain complaints. The role-playing element is rather weak. The heroes did not have the opportunity to make a real choice about their fate. So he's a choicer and consequencer. Updated my journal. In 2009, Russian politician Vladimir Putin was celebrating his 57th birthday. As part of the occasion, the first person visited the State Pushkin Museum to meet with a group of prominent writers. Among those present was Sergey Lukyanenko, who presented Vladimir Putin with a signed copy of one of his books. Seekers of the Sky, the novel, is built on an alternate biblical history where the coming of Jesus never happens. In his place appears the Redeemer, a miraculous figure of a slightly lower power level who eventually becomes the ruler of Rome. The story unfolds centuries later. The Roman Empire never fell and now controls most of Europe, competing with the Russian state and the Ottoman Empire.
Автор жжет.
Meanwhile, the Night Watch CRPG writer Leonid Kaganov became involved in a fantasy scene drama of his own, inadvertently kicking off a decade-long feud with Nick Perumov, one of the most prominent figures of the scene. The incident dates back to around 2007, the Roscon convention in Moscow. Kaganov was showing a colleague around the venue. At one point, he gestures towards a door and says, "This is where Nick Perumov held his workshop." However, Perumov, who happened to be nearby, misheard it as his workshop for human cattle. In Russian, both of these phrases happen to sound very similar. Perumov took offense. The misunderstanding lingered for years, and then, a decade later, he resurfaced the incident in the comments under an unrelated Facebook post, where he lashed out at Kaganov, calling him a coward and a bastard. Lukyanenko joined the argument as it unfolded. Sergey was on the side of Perumov. He did not believe Kaganov's version, calling the human cattle interpretation more plausible. What kind of game are you playing, Sergey? Mr. Kaganov wrote the end credits song for the Night Watch RPG. The track itself is very well produced, but the lyrics are quite strange and come across as almost making fun of the idea of being a computer gamer. Let's give it a listen.
Не сделан курсовой и завал на работе.
The term paper isn't done, and there is pile up at work. It'll wait. You are another, leading a battle in computer worlds, having gripped the mouse with your hand.
Твой опыт виртуальный, но жди, придет пора вмешаться в бой реальный.
Your experience is virtual, but wait, the time will come to intervene in a real battle on the side of good. You will manage no worse and will conquer again, having taken a weapon in your palm, just as you once took a mouse, or a joystick, or a steering wheel, or whatever you played with.
Или джойстик, или руль, или чем ты там играл? Там, где подлый враг, бросайся в битву, сжав кулак. Там, где гибнет друг, бросайся в бой, забыв испуг.
I love it. The voice belongs to the Russian singer Alexander Pushnoy.
Помогите! Опускают!
In 2011, Kaganov's personal website was shut down by the Russian government. The reason was extremism, incitement of ethnic hatred. His offense was quoting an anti-Semitic poem on his blog. Kaganov himself is Jewish, and the quote was not intended as an endorsement, but that didn't matter. The poem had been added to the federal list of banned materials, and reproducing it was enough to trigger the block. Just another day in the psychotronic slob bucket. Now, on inciting things. Ukraine, 2004. The Orange Revolution, aka Maidan 1.
The way the Ukrainian events impacted the Russian brain was a sight to behold. It was Gamergate for boomers.
Back during the Orange Revolution, somebody put up a huge street poster in Kharkiv, Ukraine, with a picture of Lukyanenko and a quote from the book. It says, "Everyone out of the gloom." Twilight or gloom is a parallel dimension from the Night Watch universe. The poster uses orange tones and was clearly meant to support the 2004 Maidan. Lukyanenko did not like that. Sergey visited Ukraine for the first time in the 80s. The Soviet Union was still around, and he was still a kid. The children there told him that Ukraine was occupied by Moskali, a derogatory term for Russians, and that without them, Ukrainians would live like the French. This left a lasting impression on Sergey, who recalled that story 40-something years later on RT. Lukyanenko seemed deeply personally hurt by the events of Maidan 2 in 2013 and 2014. Many Ukrainian fantasts supported the pro-Western movement or even participated in it directly. In response, Lukyanenko publicly vowed to use his influence to block pro-Maidan Ukrainian authors from being published in Russia. "I will do everything in my power." The revolution in Kiev was followed by Russian invasion of Crimea and a surge of nationalist sentiment, producing a kind of emotional climate similar to American post-9/11 rage. On April 17, 2014, Vladimir Putin held an annual live Q&A session to answer questions and, of course, to gloat. Lukyanenko was present in the studio. The country is sliding into something close to a fascist situation. He was referring to Ukraine. In an all-time iconic gamer moment, Russian President Vladimir Putin, on live television, makes two attempts to persuade the CRPG enthusiast Sergey Lukyanenko to be less Ukrophobic, but without success. Putin also appealed to Lukyanenko with a request not to ban the translation of his books into Ukrainian, as Sergey previously threatened to do. "We need to promote Russian culture somehow." Well, I can do much better than that, Mr. President. One of the later books in the Watch series introduces a Ukrainian character named Hochlenko. This Jk Rowling-ass name is delivered from a derogatory term for Ukrainians, roughly comparable to an ethnic slur. It was his vengeance for Moskali. Now, you might be wondering, Western game dev seems to be relatively apolitical in comparison to this. So how come we have these absolutely insane stories, some of the wildest in the industry, but there doesn't seem to be public awareness of any of this? The one-sentence answer is that Russians never quite succeeded in developing a philosophy that would explain Russians. Indeed, the science clearly shows that by this point, that's the year 2014, Russian creative class should have accumulated enough great people points to spawn a Russian ContraPoints, who would then go on to explain society progressively.
It would make sense. Russians live a naturally occurring whirlwind of weird fascisms. So by the theoretical laws of history, as well as the mechanics of Sid Meier's civilization, such an environment would eventually produce a powerful progressive counterculture.
Unfortunately, Russian intelligentsia, the class of people whose job was to understand things, was deeply hostile to Russian ideas, that's things like this, and to the pro-state politics of their authors, things like this. So they never bothered. They never developed the kind of theoretical framework needed to interpret these things. They never created their own branch of theory slop to explain them. And that's why there is so little awareness of all this.
Something terrible is about to happen.
Помогите! Опускают!
But back to the big franchise. The sequel to Night Watch is Daywatch, a story told from the point of view of the dark forces. Like the original, the sequel is a book, a movie, and a CRPG. In the Daywatch game, we play as the Russian Sith, and a woman. So what's the difference between the two organizations anyway? The forces of light have this theme of Soviet conservatism about them. They are represented by a Soviet bureaucrat. They venerate the legendary grandfathers who so epically took the hydro-fascism into the rooster's corner. In fact, they are the legendary grandfathers. They even sometimes wear uniforms. In contrast, the Day Watch is about new things. Their leader Zavulon is a new rich businessman type. He dresses like he's about to go clubbing. The bar serves as our main base between missions. This is where we recruit companions. Our friend Pyotr the Werewolf drives around in a BMW, or so it seems. On closer inspection, it's actually an old Soviet car, enchanted by a witch. Magical software is a big deal in the plot. The forces of light use a Palantir-like program to manipulate the future, which is possibly a violation of the Great Treaty. There are in-game ads for some sort of a dumb phone-era SMS erotica service. The main quest is about investigating our ex Stas, the protagonist of the first game, who went to America on vacation and returned indoctrinated into pro-light extremism.
Happens to the best of us.
The Night Watch is international, but the different branches have their own local cultures. In America, the cops are light mages who solve problems with guns instead of spells. Unfortunately, basically none of the flaws of the first game were addressed. The characters no longer talk in life journal jargon, and there is no credits song this time. The Day Watch novel was co-authored by Lukyanenko and Vladimir Vasilyev, the very same Vasilyev who wrote the XCOM book. He isn't quite as successful as Lukyanenko or Perumov, but he made a living. Vasilyev eventually wrote more books in the Night Watch universe. The audience reception is mostly positive, though readers have pointed out that there are many detailed descriptions of drinking binges that have nothing to do with the story. Vasilyev has quite a catalog, actually. Wait, what the hell is this? The Witcher from Grand Kiev. New adventures of the beloved heroes, the Witchers Geralt and Lambert. What at first glance seems like a simple investigation into methanol theft leads Geralt further than any hunter of mechanical monsters has ever gone before. This appears to be a hybrid of Sapkowski's universe and a cyberpunk aesthetic, where instead of hunting monsters, Witchers hunt machines that escaped human control.
You know what? Let the man cook.
The full potential of Silent Storm technology was never realized. In 2004, Nival released Silent Storm Sentinels. The story follows the Axis and Allied powers joining forces to create a clandestine organization dedicated to fighting a rival secret society of Euro-terrorists.
That sentence seemed less insane in writing.
The final installment in the series was 2005 Hammer and Sickle, where you play a Soviet spy codenamed Rook and recruit a party that includes a CIA agent, a former SS officer, a Holocaust survivor, and a Latin American freedom fighter. This sounds like a setup for a joke, but the characters are genuinely strong. I wish the Night Watch RPGs were like this. The company Akela attempted to build Jagged Alliance 3 on this engine, but the project ultimately went nowhere. The most commercially successful, though still relatively niche title to emerge from this seems to have been Heroes of Might and Magic 5. That's not that bad of a legacy. Intruder alert. Foreign body detected on the premises. The enemies of the Russian state have arrived to homosexualize us. Galina Yuzefovich, a literary critic and contributor to the major liberal publication Medusa, now banned in Russia, gave a lecture at a convention in St. Petersburg. Lukyanenko was mentioned by name. It's like a New York Times writer coming after you.
Jeez Louise, this is Strannik all over again.
People with good faces, good genes, and specialized education have become concerned with erasing me from science fiction. This process is being led by one diligent literary lady who has declared this struggle to be almost sacred. It sounds like Sergey was both cancelled and made a victim of racism. But what actually happened was nothing at all. Yuzefovich's review of Lukyanenko's latest book was moderately positive, and the lecture was just a mild critique of contemporary Russian fantastica. Its emphasis on technical detail, bad book covers, and attempts to promote traditional values.
Oh my science, Russian ContraPoints is about to spawn.
Suggestion: do not enter melee range, Galina. She didn't. In fact, Galina Yuzefovich had to leave the country in 2022. And in 2026, just days ago, she was designated a foreign agent by the Russian state. The effect is a near-total exclusion from public life. In 2023, Vladimir Putin appointed Lukyanenko as one of 40 new members of Russia's Civic Chamber, a government body that reviews draft legislation and monitors other state entities. This sounds very important and governmenty, but the Civic Chamber doesn't actually do anything, as its resolutions are non-binding. The first person puts people there so that they can pretend to be politicians.
Like in Master of Orion.
I lived in it. But at the very least, this means your owners care about you. And you get to go to cool events, such as joining an official delegation of the Civic Chamber at a reception hosted on the behalf of the chairman of the Economic and Social Council of China. There is a new movie coming out. It's based on Sergey's older book, the one about children. Lukyanenko had an impressive career, second only to the something awful goon and a friend of the show Gobbler Puchkov, who was recently awarded the medal for Merit to the Fatherland second degree in the Kremlin just a few weeks ago. This was yet another day in the psychotronic slob bucket, the planescape of countries. The planescape of online merch stores is bobruisk-shop.fourthwall.com. If you want to experience the Night Watch universe, I cautiously recommend the Day Watch movie. The best game built on the Silent Storm engine is Silent Storm Sentinels. Like and subscribe. There is one Lukyanenko RPG I haven't covered, and that's because I'm saving it for the Nick Perumov episode. The rest of the video is a music clip I put together for the Night Watch credits song.
Уже 2000 лет для людей не видны. Бьются насмерть тьма и свет, силы равны, и ты вступаешь в бой, потому что ты сам иной, потому что выбрал свет. Правда с тобой, сердце стучит, открой. Там, где подлый враг, бросайся в битву, сжав кулак. Там, где гибнет друг, бросайся в бой, забыв испуг. Так с далеких пор ведет борьбу ночной дозор. Не сделан курсовой и завал на работе. ждете. Ты иной, ты ведешь бой в компьютерных мирах, сжавши мышку рукой. Выше локоть, жестче кисть, не промахнись, делай свой выбор, должен быть выход, делай свой ход иной. Там, где подлый враг, бросайся в битву, сжав кулак. Как-нибудь к утру ты, наконец, пройдешь игру. С этих самых пор, считай, вступил в ночной дозор. Твой опыт виртуальный, но жди, придет пора вмешаться в бой реальный на стороне добра. Ты справишься не хуже и снова победишь, в ладони взяв оружие, как брал когда-то мышь, или джойстик, или руль, или чем ты там играл. Там, где подлый враг, бросайся в битву, сжав кулак.